Book of Job. Been off for a couple of weeks. We're going to pick up exactly where we left off the last time that we met. And there are so many interesting observations to be made in the book of Job. When you casually read through it, it just seems like it's all fairly well cut and dried until you actually begin to look at a good deal more of detail in regards to what's going on and what happened in regards to Job. And we are here in the third chapter, the 24th verse is where we're going to be picking up, and it goes through the 26th. This portion right here is the first words that Job spoke, along with what began earlier in the beginning of this chapter. These are the words that he spoke about himself, his condition, and what was going on, and how he felt, and how badly he felt. He wished he had died. He wished that he had never been born. And that's a part of the challenge that we have in these days. When a problem comes along, when a situation comes along that's negative in our lives, we sometimes wonder, well, where is God at? Why did he permit this? And you can ask that question over and over and over again. Sometimes God will give you an answer, but often he does not give us an answer. That's where we place our trust and our confidence in him. For we are going to know the answer, but it's not now necessarily. It may not be till we actually see Jesus that we'll know the answer. And I think that most people are going to be surprised when they see Jesus. It's going to be that aha moment, where all the things they wondered about, all the things they couldn't figure out, and though they went through most of their life struggling with various and sundry issues, wondering why God let this happen, why God directed that, why didn't God stop this, and why did God, so on and so on. Not knowing. But then we're going to know, as the scripture says, even as we are known. Literally, as God knows us absolutely and perfectly, we're going to know absolutely and perfectly as well. We're talking about we who believe. All the questions will be answered without even asking the questions. And we're going to say, aha, now we see why this happened and why it happened this way, and so on. But the book of Job enlightens us in many of the things that actually happen today that we don't have answers for. Job didn't get the answers immediately. He was eventually delivered from all of this, but he could not see the possibility of that happening. Again, that's failure to realize that our God is not limited in any way, shape, or form. He can do whatever he wants to do, whenever he wants to do it, however he wants to do it. It is done for his glory and for our benefit. And you say, well, how can some of these negative things be for our benefit? Well, they can be. They can be, even though we look at it from our perspective and say, this is just bad news. Why do we have to go through this? Why did this have to happen? Why did it have to happen the way that it did? And complaining more about it than anything else. But waiting and seeing what God is going to do. In the end, we will know. Well, here is his feelings. As Job addresses his comforters, he hasn't said anything for quite a while. Now he's really pouring his heart out in regards to this. For my sighing cometh before I eat. And what he literally is saying here is, when I look at food, Oh, no. This again? Remember, he was a very wealthy man. He had anything that he wanted to eat, but his wealth is gone. And the food that he's eating is obviously not satisfying. He's in pain to begin with. He is suffering physically. He is suffering emotionally and psychologically and spiritually. He is really going through a hard time. And then when it comes to eating, oh no, not this again. What am I going to do? The sighing concept here. Before I eat, and my roarings, the word roarings here carries with it the idea of his verbally crying out and calling out in pain and suffering, agony. You get the picture. This is not a happy camper under any circumstance. And my roarings are poured out like the waters. What he's simply saying is, my heart, my fears, my pain, my suffering, I've expressed myself. And as I express myself, it's like taking a bucket of water and pouring it out. When people are suffering, what do we Christians do? Several things. Number one, we avoid them. You ever notice that? If somebody is suffering, bad things have happened to them, we have a tendency to avoid them because, number one, we don't know what to say. Number two, we can't fix the problem. Number three, they're not going to understand. They want help from me, and I can't give that to them. So we have a tendency to back away. We're going to see that Eliphaz, who's the first one to respond to Job, he was definitely not a comforter. Actually, none of them were, but he definitely was not a comforter. He was criticizing him. He was putting him down. And we will see that in great detail that he went into. But here is Job. He is suffering. And he's wanting people to know that he's hurting. Not that they can actually do anything necessarily, and certainly not in this case with Job, there's anything they could do. But to be understanding. To be understanding. Don't try to solve the problem, but rather understand their pain. Even though you may not be able to empathize with the pain, but understand this person is hurting because of what is going on in their life. Sometimes all they need is a hug. No words said. Sometimes that's very comforting. And letting them know that you're there for them. One of the things as a pastor that I've learned through the years, when people are in deep grief and sorrow and pain and suffering, sometimes the most important thing that you can do is be there. Be there. Don't avoid them. Be there. And that's going to take a lot of preparation on your part to do that. Because again, you want to fix it, but you don't know how. And even if you knew how, you can't do it. And but the comforting part is being there for emotional, mental, spiritual, psychological support, not abandoning them. The loneliness in a matter of suffering, like Job is suffering, is utter isolation. And that is as worse as the events as themselves are. They happened, and now all my friends won't come around. People that I know and I love and I've trusted, and they back away. Instead of just being there for them. Well, all right, he continues in verse 25. For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me. Remember, I pointed this out. Wealthy people, their greatest fear is losing their wealth. People are coming to them, asking them for help and money and this and that and the other, and they feel somewhat obligated. But it's going to run out. It's going to run out. They fear it. And this is what Job is saying. The thing which I greatly feared, the loss of his wealth and his family and so on, is come upon me. And that which I was afraid of is come unto me. Nobody knew he had those fears. You look at people who are millionaires, billionaires, and you think, they have more money than they know what to do with. They can't outlive their money. And yet, secretly, in their heart, there is a fear of loss. And now it has happened to Job, that which he had feared. For probably as long as he had had understanding that he was, well, one of the wealthiest men in the East of that day and time. That's an awful difficult and lonely feeling to have that which you fear actually happen to you. But he shares that with them. He's sharing that with his comforters. That which I feared actually has come to pass. In verse 26, I was not in safety, neither had I rest, neither was I quiet, yet trouble came. He has simply said, no matter what I was doing, how I was handling it, I was hoping to avoid what happened, and yet it came anyway, no matter what I did. In 1929, the United States stock market collapsed. In the early years of the 20s, it was booming. Everybody thought there's no end to this. And even people who had next to nothing would actually buy stock, at least 10% of it anyway. They would buy, and the rest was 90% on credit. Never fear. The stock market was going just like this, upwards, every day, every hour. Up it went, and up it went. It's never going to come to an end. Without warning, it came to an end. The house of cards that were built collapsed. Individuals who on paper were millionaires in 1929. And that was a lot of money in 1929. Was suddenly gone. They still owed for the stock that they hadn't paid for. They went to the bank to draw out money to somehow manage to live, and the bank was closed because even the banks got into the stock market. Everybody was hurting. And that hurt went on for the next 10 years before they began to crawl out of that Great Depression. In 2008, the real estate market in America collapsed. A lot of people lost a lot of money. There were a lot of homes that were sold on short sale, even though they appraised out for tens of thousands of dollars more. But nobody was buying. It was bad news. And a lot of people were suffering as a result of that. Worldwide, the economy is heading rapidly that it's going to require a massive change. In America, we are now at $40 trillion in debt. Hey, don't worry about it, folks. The printing presses are running. The money is coming out. But it reaches a point that it's going to collapse. Fear. And all of these things. I point this out to simply show you that from generation to generation to generation, for thousands of years, the same problems exist. And yet we do not learn from them. In Job's case, the devil went to the Lord and said, Job, he serves you because you've blessed him so much. Take away his blessing. Take away his wealth. Take his family away, his children, his 10 children. Take them away. Yeah. Take his health away. And he will curse you. He will turn his back on you. The devil didn't count on the fact that God knows everything. And he knew that Job was not going to do that. But because the devil said, Lord, you've blessed him, he worships you, he loves you, he follows you, he's obedient to you, because you've been so good to him. You take that away, he'll turn on you. And so God showed the devil that Job did not turn away from him. He didn't understand. He didn't know why. But he did not in a foolish way accuse God of things that he should not have accused him of. He didn't do any of those things. He didn't curse God. And he did not die. Though he wanted to. In the end, he won, and he understood. Sometimes we go through tough spots in our life. You lost your job. You're behind on your house payment. The repo wants your vehicle back. And you wonder, Lord, what's going on here? Could very well be possible, because remember, the devil is identified as the accuser of the brethren, referring to those who are followers of Christ. Any number of things could have happened to us in our lifetime that we don't know the why to. But the answer very well that the devil comes to the Lord and says, hey, names your name. They'll turn on you if you take away this, that, or the other, whatever. And I'm sure there's no end to the list that they can come up with. So the next time you find yourself in that sort of situation, it's not time to say, God forgot me, God has abandoned me, God has let all this bad stuff happen to me. I don't love you anymore. I don't want anything to do with you anymore, because you didn't do what I wanted you to do. But rather look at it from the standpoint that your faith is being tested and tried before the devil. Perhaps so. We will know exactly the reasons why. Job became a better man as a result of all this, and we'll see that as we get to the end of his book. But at this point, he's suffering. He's suffering immensely. Now we come to the 4th chapter, verses 1 and 2. Then Eliphaz, the Temanite, answered and said, verse 2, here's what he said. If we assay, meaning, if we begin to carry on a conversation with you, to commune with thee, will thou be grieved? In other words, he is saying this. Job, if we begin to have a conversation with what's happened to you, is this going to cause you more pain and more grief because we want to talk about it? Yeah. He goes on to say, verse 2, but who can withhold himself from speaking? His 3 friends, quote unquote, friends, wanted to know, why is this happening? Let's talk about this. They're going to, Eliphaz is going to offer an explanation for why it happened to Job. It's not a pretty one, but he'll offer it anyway. The only thing that would serve to do is increase the pain and suffering of Job. And so he's anticipating that with the very first statement that he makes here. If we begin a conversation with you, if we essay to commune and to talk with you about this, is this going to harm you more? Knowing full well they probably would harm him more. But they're going to do it anyway. Oftentimes people, when they come to individuals who are suffering, want to know and to understand, to kind of put it together in their own mind. They really are not there to comfort, encourage, to be of support physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. They are just there to see what they can learn and find out for themselves at the expense of. Now Eliphaz is going to offer him some explanations of what's going on. And it's somewhat surprising when we see what is going to be offered. He goes on in verse 3. Again, this is Eliphaz that is speaking. Behold, thou hast instructed many, and thou hast strengthened the weak hands. Thy words have upholden him, the weak person, that was falling, and thou hast strengthened the feeble knees. He says, Job, in your life, you know, you've had many different people who come to you, who've had various and sundry problems that come upon them, and how you have encouraged them, and how you've told them this and told them that to make them feel better, to get over the situation. He's telling Job this. He's reminding him of this. Because the next thing he says here, but now it has come upon you, and you faintest. It touches you, and thou art troubled. That's putting it mildly. The problems that you helped others out with in a smaller way, not certainly the size that Job's going through, he is now going through in an enormous way. And Eliphaz is saying basically this: get over it. You've helped others. Take your own advice. Take your own advice, is what he is indicating and suggesting here. Then you'll feel better. Well, yeah. Verse 6, is not this thy fear, thy confidence, thy hope, and the uprightness of thy ways? Is this what you feared? Yes. Job feared that he was going to lose everything, that that's possible, to lose it all. And many of us go through those in smaller ways. You took a job, looked like this is a good job, good pay, strong company, sales are great, things are going well, and so you decide to buy a house. And you borrow money. And after 2 or 3 or 4 years, all of a sudden, the company goes belly up. You're without a job. You can't pay the house payment. You're facing foreclosure, so on. Now, we can understand the feelings of these things. And simply to comfort Job, he say, you've helped others. Take your own advice in this situation, and you'll feel better, is the implication. Though that doesn't really happen. He said he now touches upon what he fears, what Job fears. Because, well, Job already mentioned that. He's already mentioned that. So he knows that. Verse 7, remember, I pray thee, I ask thee, whoever perished being innocent, or where were the righteous cut off? Now he's going to grab a hold of something that was commonly given as explanations in that day and time. And interestingly enough, from that time, thousands of years ago, to this very day. If bad things happen to good people, it's not because they're good. It's because they're sinners. Now, I remind you what God said about Job twice before any of it happened. That Job was the most righteous of the people of that day. But Eliphaz is suggesting that this bad has come upon Job, this evil has come upon Job, because he has secret sin in his life. You need to confess that. They're going to belabor that point. Well, our time is gone. We'll have to